On one side, you've got Storm, a woman who commands lightning and hurricanes like a goddess. On the other side, you've got a kid whose entire mutant gift is that he grew a beak. Same X gene, same species, absolute canyon between them. So Marvel sat down and split mutants into 6 levels, from the ones barely surviving to the ones who bend reality with a thought. But here's the twist most people miss. This ranking isn't only about who wins a fight, it's about what your power costs you, and that changes everything. Subscribe if you love this kind of deep dive, it seriously helps the channel. And let's start at the very bottom. Epsilon, the ones who got the worst deal in the entire universe. When people picture a mutant, they imagine someone splitting a city in half. Epsilon mutants are the opposite of that. Their mutations are either useless, uncontrollable, or actively make daily life harder. No offense, no defense, and worst of all, no way to hide. Weird growths, animal features, skin and colors that don't exist in nature, limbs that serve no purpose whatsoever. And here's the number that always gets me. They make up roughly 20% of the entire mutant population. 1 in 5. Take Beak. This poor guy got bird features, hollow bones, feathers, the whole package, but 0 flight and 0 strength. So he's a bird who can't fly. Or Glob Herman, whose skin is permanently transparent, and by permanently I mean he cannot switch it off, ever. Or Artie Maddox, who can't speak at all, and communicates only by projecting little holograms of his thoughts, which sounds cool for about 4 seconds, until you realize it isolates him from literally everyone. Now imagine that happening to you. One morning your body has changed forever, you can't cover it, you can't fix it, and you got absolutely nothing useful out of the deal. That's why so many of them end up living underground with the Morlocks in the sewers, because down there nobody stares. And this is the brutal part nobody says out loud. Society fears powerful mutants for what they can do, but they punish Epsilons purely for how they look. These people aren't dangerous, they're just visible. The X gene isn't a gift, folks. Sometimes it's a bill you never asked for. Delta, the ones you'd walk right past. One step up and the problem completely flips. Delta mutants have powers that actually work, they just aren't going to win any wars. No dramatic appearance, no monster features. They look totally human. Their mutations boost one specific trait instead. Luck, intelligence, perception, intuition. Small edges that matter at exactly the right second. The one everybody knows is Domino from Deadpool 2. Her power is probability, luck itself. Bullets miss, cars crash around her. The universe basically clears a path. But here's the detail I love, and most breakdowns skip it. She can't just stand still and wait for miracles. She has to move, act, throw herself into the situation so luck has something to work with. That's Delta in a nutshell. The power isn't the weapon, the person is. Then there's Forge, who repairs any machine on pure instinct. Cypher, who instantly understands every language. And Caliban, who tracks mutants across huge distances but folds like paper in a fight. And plot twist, Delta is actually the biggest group of all, around half of every mutant alive, which means most mutants on Earth are living completely normal lives, working normal jobs, and nobody has any idea. Kind of beautiful when you think about it. Gamma, powerful, but the mirror never lets you forget. Now we hit what I think is the most tragic category in the whole system. Gamma mutants are genuinely strong. Some can hold their own against the higher tiers, but they pay for it with permanent physical changes no disguise can hide. Nightcrawler is the perfect example. Teleportation makes him one of the most unpredictable fighters alive. He vanishes in blue smoke and reappears behind you before you blink. The price? Blue fur, yellow eyes, fangs, a tail, hands built for climbing instead of blending in. A genuinely kind, deeply religious man who scares people just by existing in a room. Or Beast, a certified genius with real strength, packaged inside blue fur and claws, so the world reads him as a threat before he opens his mouth. Or Mystique, who can become literally anyone on the planet, yet her actual face, blue skin, scales, yellow eyes, has defined every single day of her life. That's poetry, honestly. The shapeshifter is the one who can never truly be herself. Also in this tier, Sabretooth with his animal ferocity, and Blob, whose immovable size makes him unstoppable and a permanent target for cruelty. The lesson hits hard. Sometimes the most painful part of a mutation isn't the power, it's the reflection. Quick pause, and be honest with me in the comments. Which level do you think you'd land in? I'll go first. I'm almost certainly a Delta. I'd get some useless but charming power like always finding parking. Anyway, back to it. Beta. Extraordinary power with the off switch missing. Beta mutants can usually pass as human, and their strength gets close to the top tier. Their problem is different. Their powers come with a permanent side effect they cannot shut down. Wolverine, obviously. That healing factor never sleeps, constantly burning energy, constantly repairing him, and that adamantium coating his skeleton is slowly poisoning him from the inside across decades. His mutation keeps him alive and destroys him at the same time, which is peak Logan when you think about it. Then there's Quicksilver, who moves so fast the world looks frozen, which sounds amazing until you realize everyone he loves moves at a speed that feels like watching paint dry. That man is permanently lonely in a room full of people. Gambit looks completely human and charges objects with explosive energy, but those red eyes give him away the second anyone looks closely. He can hide what he does, never what he is. And the heartbreaker of the entire category, Rogue. One touch absorbs your powers, your memories, your life force, and early on she has zero control over it. So think about that for a second. Being physically unable to hug anyone you love. Not shouldn't, can't. Her mutation isn't a weapon, it's a cage. Betas prove that the scariest mutations aren't the ones that level cities. They're the ones that quietly take away any chance at a normal life. Okay, we're heading into the top of the pyramid now, and this is where it stops being sad and starts being terrifying. But before that, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We're a small channel, and the algorithm is genuinely merciless. We might never bump into each other again. Alright, Alpha. Power with a volume knob. Alphas are what happens when massive ability meets total control. No monstrous features, no leaking side effects, no useless gimmicks. They walk down a street looking like anybody else, right up until the moment they decide otherwise. Professor Charles Xavier looks like an ordinary man in a wheelchair. He is also one of the most powerful telepaths on the planet, capable of reading minds, freezing an entire room, and locating any mutant anywhere on Earth. He chooses when to switch it on, and exactly how far it reaches. That's mastery. Storm shifts atmospheric pressure and summons lightning, but she never loses composure. Her power never spills past her intention. She isn't feared for being dangerous. She's respected for being disciplined. And then Cyclops, the most misunderstood guy in this entire system. Everyone thinks he's the poster boy for bad control because of the visor, but that's not a mutant flaw. As a kid, he suffered a head injury, and that damage is why he can't regulate the blasts. Without it, he'd control them perfectly. His glasses aren't a leash, they're a workaround for an injury. So next time someone calls Cyclops weak, drop that fact and watch their face. Here's the coolest part of this level though, you can be promoted into it. Rogue spent years as a textbook beta, unable to touch a soul, then learned full control and got reclassified as an alpha. This system isn't a life sentence. Add Colossus, who switches to living metal and back effortlessly, Kitty Pryde phasing through walls without a scratch, Emma Frost flipping between telepathy and diamond form like she's changing shoes, and you've got the most balanced mutants alive. Not the strongest, the most reliable. Omega. No ceiling, no limit, no plan B. And here we are. The reason you clicked Omega level means your dominant power has no measurable upper limit. Not very strong. No limit. Nobody in your category can ever surpass you, because you are the endpoint of what that ability can be. Jean Grey is the clearest example. Telepathy and telekinesis already put her near the top, but when the Phoenix Force ignites inside her, she stops being a person with powers and becomes a natural event. Matter reshapes around her. Landscapes bend. Jean doesn't use the power. She is the power. Magneto commands magnetism on a scale that affects the planet's own magnetic field, which isn't superhuman anymore, it's elemental. Storm is officially Omega in the comics, and the only thing limiting her is her own restraint, which should terrify you. Then Iceman, who can theoretically drop temperatures to absolute zero. Legion, whose reality-warping mind is beyond comprehension. Hope Summers, who mimics and amplifies other mutants. And Franklin Richards, who can create entire universes. A kid, creating universes. Now here's the fact that puts it all in perspective. Out of millions of mutants, only about 25 are officially recognized as Omega level. 25. And the term itself started as a total accident in Uncanny X-Men #208 back in 1986. A robot called Nimrod scanned Rachel Summers and flagged her as Class Omega, noting her upper limit couldn't be determined. Chris Claremont wasn't building a system, he just needed shorthand for, "This girl is off the charts." Marvel only made it official decades later in House of X. One throwaway line in one panel accidentally created the most famous power tier in comics. Now let me be honest about something, because most videos on this topic won't. Half of this system isn't actually official, only Alpha, Beta, Epsilon, and Omega genuinely appear in the main Marvel continuity. Delta and Gamma mostly come from alternate realities and fan communities that filled in the gaps. Marvel itself flip-flopped for years. Sometimes Alpha was the top tier, sometimes Omega. So if a random person online tells you their favorite character is a confirmed Gamma, now you know. It's a useful framework, not a law of physics, but telling you that is exactly why you're here, instead of somewhere else, right? So what does this whole system actually mean? Look at the pattern. Epsilons pay the highest price and receive the least power. Omegas hold power with no ceiling at all, and everyone in between is balancing what they can do against what it costs them. Which is why, if an alpha can win a battle, an omega can end a world, and why the scariest mutant in any room might be the quiet one nobody has classified yet. So tell me down below, what level would you be, and what would your power be? I want the ridiculous answers too. Which mutant do you think is criminally misclassified? Subscribe so we can keep digging through this universe together, and I'll see you in the next one. Because sometimes the most dangerous mutation is the one nobody saw coming.